Yeah, as a global company, given the significant daily volumes, so we're engaged in AI to have market analysis, to have assistance for traders, and to have AI-driven bot trading as well, compliance support, customer support, fraud detection, internal reporting, forecasting, analysis. So there's a huge scope of AI tools that we use throughout the day, daily. But the most important part is that once the regulator comes to you, as we're a regulated company, you have to explain. You have to, at the end of the day, explain how you actually use AI, what does it do? And to be able to scale AI, you have to understand it. So to be able to tell the regulator what we do, we have to understand the AI pretty well, and we have to show the track record. It has to be auditable. And it's not enough like, you come to the bank and they say, well, you have a $2,000 in your account. You say, well, it's accurate, thank you, but how did you arrive to that number? What did I earn? What did I spend? So you need to be able to track it down so that auditability creates trust, and that trust allows us to scale. So I believe that that's one of the most important elements of trust. So being able to understand what you do and be able to track it down and be able to audit.
Yeah, let me extend on that, right? So auditability, absolutely. But when we look at AI pilots, typically any pilot gets run on curated data. But when you start productionizing or productizing the same model or the same use case, you are looking at an enterprise-wide context where the data would typically sit in silos. You are no longer looking at a single data store, but potentially data that needs to speak across different data silos that have been set up as part of your enterprise stack. This creates a complexity where if you do not have a singular source, so to say, or a singular context graph that is kind of
Continue.
that is kind of reading into the model itself, thank you, then that creates a huge trust deficit, is something that we've kind of seen. And I think proof of the pudding is that while there are a lot of AI pilots that do get into production, I think last month McKinsey had come out with a report that less than 10% of them were in the scaling mode. So to me, that's one key piece. And to add to that, just another small piece here would be governance, which is governance is something that either you are bolting on as part of your model, or is that something you're kind of building as part of your workflow? To me, also kind of has a huge impetus on how you look at trust on top of your model.
No, I think excellent points. I just like to give a step back, right? See, the enterprises were more used to a deterministic applications, right? Where it is very logical. If A equals to 1, do something. If B equals to 2, do something, whatever it is, right? AI by nature is more of a probabilistic model, right? So the data will not be 100% consistent. But in an enterprise context, if you are working in a regulated environment, as my colleague said, right? If it is a life science client or a financial service client, the data has to be accurate, right? You can't have 99% accuracy. It doesn't work, right? If it is a drug discovery, you need 100% accuracy, and it has to be reproducible. We need to have explainability. Every time I ask the same question, it should give the same answer. Every time it cannot give different answers, right? And we need to have built in the privacy, right? If I don't have access to data, let's say it's a social security number, or in Europe context, if it is a PII information, then no, the model should not have access to those data, right? So we need to bring in privacy. We need to bring in explainability. We need to, again, very good point. In a POC says the data bias is not there because the training data set you have full control. But when you are running it at scale in production, there could be data bias, right? If there is a loan approved for a certain person and the data is biased, the model is working as per its design, but suddenly it gives approval to somebody but denies somebody else loan approval, then those are challenges, right? How can you trust? So at a production scale, you need to look at all these dimensions together.
So if I may sum it up.
Just wanted to build on all the points made, all excellent points. Number one, I would say we have to build for trust, right? And design for trust. Trust cannot be an afterthought. Number two, just because it is AI does not mean some of the traditional methods that we have used does not work, right? A/B testing is a very familiar mechanism that we all use as we scale the rollout. So from a POC to a full-scale solution is a carefully crafted journey with a human in the loop at every stage. So that's what incrementally builds the trust. Trust doesn't appear on day one.
So I'll sum this up. Maybe next. So I'll sum this up. From what I've heard, governance, deterministic controls, grounding that AI into actual rule-based systems that you can see or in knowledge bases that you can trust, and then making sure that the data is being available the right way, right? And of course, at the end of it, traceability, auditability makes a lot of difference. So I'm
It's a
going
very
to-
small point. I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
Shayak.
of course.
So basically, again, tech, trust at scale would essentially rely, highly dependent on three things. One is reliability, second is transparency, and third is control. The more options that you give, and it cannot be a black box. The moment it goes into a black box, that is when the AI structure that was designed, it loses its control. Just wanted to add that point.
Absolutely.
If I can just add on to that, because here what we heard so far is for the company, for the entity to have trust to scale the AI is one thing. But for the regulated entities, as my colleague here has mentioned as well, that you need to have counterparties to trust the models that you have. It's not enough for you to know that it's cost effective, it's accurate, it works, you trust it, you're happy, your customer, your regulator needs to be happy, your stakeholders need to be happy, your customers actually have to trust it, and when they see the decision that you've made based on AI, you have to explain it, and they have to trust you. So only at that point you're able to scale it. So it's important to know that we're not in a single pillar as an entity that you make your own decision on scaling it. It's a combined ecosystem trust that is required.
Agree. So I'm going to step this up to the next question, and this is a continuation of the earlier question, but my only request is that we'll move a little faster now. The architecture question about clouds, models, strategic control, etc. So obviously for a small or a medium-sized business, it may not matter where that LLM is hosted or whether it's using your data, but for a larger company, it matters. It matters whether that LLM is hosted in their own tenant or whether they are using the data, or where is the data derivative sitting, what are the governance boundaries being set. So a lot of architectural choices, hosted versus private, fine-tuned model versus small models, GPU heavy intelligence versus CPU deployable systems. Right? We're seeing this 2026 is going to be the year of GPU versus CPU, and we're going to see the distribution spread. How should leadership think about AI architecture as a long-term strategic asset, not a one-time pilot, not just a cost or a performance decision?
Hey, I'll start. See, first of all of us, we should treat AI not as a tool or a feature, but it should be a part of your ecosystem in a way that you create a digital infrastructure for it. Just to answer your question, to basically create an infrastructure, of course, then there are heavy investments. There are a lot of manpower, which is involved, and there should be a traceability of what exactly, which is done. And at the same time, if a POC which is being done, it can be scaled up, and the necessary infrastructure which is also has come along with it is able to perform.
Please.
Okay. So for enterprises, I think it's a big decision point, right? It's not just about building AI agents, but it's about where do you want to keep your intelligence layer, right? And there are a lot of decision points then comes next to it, right? You have one option that you can go with a LLM like a GPT-4, GPT-4o, which is all hosted, and you can use that. It's much faster to deploy. But all your data that you are training on or whatever you are doing, it is going to the cloud to the LLM owner, right? That is one decision point. You can still, certain use cases, maybe it's beneficial. In contrast, If you are a validated environment, you are a pharma company and doing drug research, you don't want to send your data outside, right? Or you are a banking client, you want to be very careful of what data you are sending outside of your firewall. Then the decision changes, right? Then there are options like you can build your own small language model, which can run within your enterprise firewall. You can control the data. You have the complete visibility. And again, from a regulator point of view, right? Many times the question comes, tell me the traceability of this data. And many of these closed source model, they don't disclose their data set on which it is trained, right? Then you can't have the complete traceability. Whereas if you have built your own own model, then you have the complete traceability because you know on what data it is trained on. The accuracy also goes up. The cost of inferencing comes down significantly. It's kind of 100x cheaper if you have a small language model which is trained on your enterprise data. And if it is below 10 billion parameter, it can run on CPU. You don't need a GPU for inferencing, right? So there are many such decision points that you need to take, right? It also depends on the use case, right? If it is a normal conversation, it is okay to use any kind of hosted LLM on the cloud. Whereas if it is your proprietary data, then you don't want to put it there, right? And then there is country sovereignty also comes up. Many countries nowadays, they want to ensure that the data stays within the country and it should not cross boundary. That's where again you need to think of if there is any country regulation on that you need to comply on that. So it depends on the enterprise context, what is critical to you. It depends on which country you are running on. And then of course the cost economics plays a role and you need to plan for that. The cost of running a LLM on cloud versus on-prem, you have your own Blackwell servers, it changes. If you have a heavy consumer of GPUs, then having your own servers, Blackwell servers or Rubian servers definitely helps. Whereas if you are not going to use, and as you said, if it is a small enterprise or you don't want to consume a lot, then probably on cloud options are better. So it depends on many of these.
I much agree. One thing that I would add that you can outsource certain intelligence layers. You can outsource competence. You cannot outsource responsibility, and that is very key. So there are certain elements that are related, for example, for a global finance company, so matching engines that match the trades. It's your responsibility, you have to own it, it's your core. When it comes to risk management, it's the same thing. It's a core element that you have to own the responsibility. And all of these elements, you have to very clearly identify. The elements where you own the responsibility to the stakeholders, to the users, to the regulators, it's yours. And I would make it almost like a simple way that if AI touches money, then it's core, then it's infrastructure, then it's yours. Everything else you can build and buy around the edges of outsourcing. But what's core is basically yours. So AI touches money, touches users, you have to own it. You have to build then around it.
Right. So just to summarize, I think, and what I'm taking away, and this has been my experience as well, that if you're a small user, you can buy a small GPU. It costs you like 20,000 rupees. Your laptop has a GPU. Host it on your laptop, run it, test it, make sure that it works. Even when you're using things like CloudBot or Cloud Cowork and giving it access, if it has access to your Amazon, I was speaking with the CTO of a large company, and very interestingly, they created a system where they were using, I'll give 2-3 examples just to illustrate this point very quickly. So one of them, they did this. They used CloudBot, and they came back on Monday morning and saw 7,900 attacks. Not one, not two. 7,900 attacks because their keys were exposed through CloudBot. All right? So when you're building these systems, you need to know. Second, there was an enterprise that was making payments through email, which means the AI read the email, went to the PG, made the payment. Guess what happened? Somebody sent a malicious email, went and deleted their payment gateway. Sorry, the entire payment database. Done. Now they hired 100 people to retrack what happened. These are real stories fighting on the ground. The architecture is everything. You just have to know what is core and never expose it. Have to know how to keep your secret safe. And at the same time, there'll be some things on the fabric, on the fringes, which is fine. I mean, yeah, sure. If you're going to do some Instagram reels, public LLM is fine. But if you're going to do a core banking system, sir knows better than anybody else. Over to you.
No, I think that was the same point I was making, which is as an enterprise, you basically need to identify what is your competitive moat. Anything that is linked to your moat, your IP, your data has to be something that you own. Where anything that's operating at the fringes, anything where you're kind of building an overlay on top of that, please feel free to kind of rent it out, use one of these standardized LLMs, APIs, doesn't really matter.
Also, just to add to Ashok sir's point, you didn't touch upon SLMs, although you built your own SLM. By the way, it's a big thing to build an SLM from scratch. There's not much investment in IP in this country. So my point being that I think 2026 will definitely be the year where you will own your infra because SLMs don't need GPUs. They can run on CPUs. So we're going to see that divide coming up. Okay, moving on. The third question. We're fairly on time. Good. Okay, so the third question, the people problem. When you're taking AI to a large enterprise, management is saying, how much cost can I save? The employees are saying, am I getting replaced? How are you looking at it?
See, the way we have looked at it is we have looked at it as a force multiplier for our team members, right? And to be very honest, what we have encountered from our teams is excitement. They are technologists in most parts. They are also very grounded in the purpose of Target, which is to bring joy to all our guests. So once you ground your thinking in the purpose and that is part of your culture, then these kind of transformations become easy. The second thing we have done is we have built a platform based on certain core principles. And one of those core principles was democratization. The minute you can sort of enlist your team in that effort, you can make them volunteers in that effort. There is a great deal of excitement on what the possibilities of the technology are. And every person wants to learn a new technology. So that's how we have approached it.
I think the communication is also key. And from my experience, what I've seen is that the best, the greatest AI ideas get killed in the middle management. And for a very, very simple reason is how you communicate, whether it's a efficiency thing or whether it's capability enhancement thing. And if you give them a calculator and say, well, look, you know, it allows you to calculate, they're going to use it. If you're going to say that it's going to likely replace you at some point in time, they're going to hide it. So the communication of the AI adoption within the organization, within the culture that you mentioned, I think it's really key. So the how you position and how you enhance. So for example, at Bybit, we have our compliance officers. They use a lot of AI to track suspicious transactions. So AI does not replace the compliance officer. It allows them to spot the right transaction, escalate, show it, deal with it. But once you say that, look, you know, you're not going to have a reporting officer, you're not going to have a compliance officer, the whole thing is going to be done by AI, it's not going to work and it's not going to happen. And we need a human factor, but we need to explain that AI enhances that job's, that man's capabilities. And the capability enhancement is absolutely crucial, not the efficiency, and we should stop talking about AI as an efficiency tool. It's a capability tool.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I think it's the organization change management aspect has to be thought through. It's not about the tool, but how you drive it across the organization. We have done it in Infosys, and we are helping many large clients in adopting AI, and it is a very tricky subject, right? On one side, you need to enable the entire organization. So typically we recommend that there are three kinds of people. One is the entire organization should be AI aware. That means they should know how to use AI. They need not be experts. And then the middle layer is the AI builder. People should know how to build agents. They are basically the business analyst or their domain expertise, but they need to have enough knowledge to build their own agents, right? So that they can run it as a kind of productivity enhancer or amplifying human potential, if we put it that way, right? And third is the core, AI creator who are building the platforms and stuff like that. So that is one aspect of it. But the other aspect of the change management is more of we need to bring the value aspect of it, right? How AI is bringing value. In fact, there are many things, and since you gave the example, let's say for financial crime, right? There are many scenarios that as human, probably we will not be able to go through millions of transactions to see what is going wrong, whereas AI is better at doing it, right? Or we are talking about for one of our large clients, we created a auditor agent. The auditor agent can go through multiple transactions that is going through if some transaction has happened on 1st of January or 2nd of January, but they are trying to put it on 31st of December, right? Those kind of things, AI is far better at spotting those kind of anomalies and finding out what is wrong, right? If you put it that way, or not talking about the supply chain problem, talking about drug discovery, right? AI can play a very big role, which was not possible before, right? I think the value part of it has to be articulated. We need to, the communication is very important, the positioning is very important, what the top management is talking about is very important. If we say that, we are using AI and that will reduce the team size by half, or 2/3 of the people will lose their job, of course, then people will not adopt it. I think that has to be taken very carefully. And also new roles has to be created, right? If somebody is, let's say, losing his job because AI, let's say we have a lot of developers and now AI can do a lot of coding, right? It can create the entire applications. So do we need so many developers? Then you need to come up with the new roles of, AI architect, you have the prompt engineers, you have the AI engineers, you have the ML engineers, right? You have data engineers. You need to create AI-enabled roles and help people transition to the new role, right? Those are the things that helps in adoption.
May I just sum it up? I think that was a wonderful answer. So basically 4 things, right? First, the inevitability of AI has to be explained. कि भाई आ रहा है और आएगा. अब now the question really is, human can do 45%, AI can do 55%, human and AI together can do 65%. So you decide which side of that scale you are on. Point number 2, the FOMO has to be addressed. The elephant in the room has to be addressed कि है, डर है, तो सिखाते हैं. And there'll be people who will grade into 3 areas, जैसे सर ने बोला कि some people who will build, some people who will use, and some people who will strategize, है ना? So great. Now, and the third thing that I will say is, once this is done, then how does the organization, the future organization, look like? That has to be communicated. So I think small or large business, it has to go through that cycle, if I'm not wrong. So if there are no other, I'll go on to the 4th. You want to add something? Okay, 4th question. Governance without gridlock. हम ज़्यादा सोचते नहीं इसके बारे में, but it's a genuine question. The question is ethics, compliance, and velocity. These are fighting in the same ring. Compliance is like नहीं करने देंगे. Velocity is like I need to go tomorrow to the market. So how exactly do we bridge this gap? Like, it's a paradox, right? Governments are also saying, I want to have an AI call center. And then suddenly, somebody gets a call from that call center, real story, talking something that is utterly not possible. Like, and then it's you lose face. So the question is, compliance, ethics versus velocity. Which one are you picking?
Well,
all of them?
The way Target has looked at it is, firstly, we started off by building a platform. So while AI emerged and there was a lot of excitement and a lot of demand for it across the enterprise, we wanted to build a platform which allows us to systematically deal with some of these challenges, right? We know that it's a new technology. We know that it is sort of susceptible to many sort of vulnerability risk vectors like hallucination and bias and those kind of things. So we invested in building the capabilities required first in a platformized way. And once we could do that, we then could unleash and democratize the technology across our enterprise, which allowed teams to experiment fast without worrying about whether they are getting things wrong, because there was a backing of governance. We also inbuilt human in the loop in the initial days, right? So that was a very important aspect. This, like, we're just talking about AI, but this has impacts and influence around practices like user experience. So how do you craft user experience which keeps human in the loop in the center, right? So those kind of efforts helped us safely navigate this without compromising too much on velocity and speed and agility.
And it is all, I mean, just to add a point here, it is very unfair to pick a side here. Honestly, everyone has a role to play. You talk about velocity, you talk about governance. I'm sorry, I forgot the third point.
Ethics.
Ethics, exactly. So everyone, each of the team members, see, we can't be going to IT every time just because they are the one who built the AI module. All of us, including business, including legal, including operations or support or network, all of us, we have our own set of responsibility, and that is why I will not choose a. I'll not pick either of these. Everyone has their own responsibility.
Yeah.
To play.
I agree. I think it's a balance, but I will still put governance ahead of speed. The reason being, AI is very, very powerful, right? What it can do, probably we have just scratched the surface, right? It can do many, many things. It's like suddenly you have invented a flying car and there is no traffic rule, right? The car we know is works in a two-dimensional road, right? You know left, right, then you can give indicator. And suddenly you have a flying car and you need to define the rules, right? How the car should fly. Without that, suddenly there are zillions of cars flying around, and then it will all get into accident, right? And so governance is very important. I think we need to every country, and thankfully while it is catching up, but every country is coming up with their regulations, right, on what AI should do, what AI should not do. I think we should comply to that. Anyway, those will be country regulations. Ethics is a very, very important topic, right? I think everybody has a different view of ethics based on how you are brought up, which part of the world you are staying. AI also, the ethics depends on what kind of data it is trained on and all. So I think we need to control it, right? If we don't control it, for example, today the privacy is compromised, right? Most of the models, they have learned on all the data that we have shared openly without knowing that there will be a model in future which will train on this data. So there are many such ethical questions that comes on the way. I don't think we should prioritize speed by compromising governance and ethics. In my opinion, governance and ethics come first. AI should work for the society, not the other way around, right? Speed is okay, but I think it has to do good for society, not bad for society. Then otherwise we are all doomed.
I would actually say that, for entertainment purposes, I will slightly disagree, if I may. That slowing business down is not a good thing. And I understand that certain decisions have to be taken carefully. Certain decisions take longer, but governance shouldn't stop all decisions, shouldn't make all decisions slower. Should identify the bad decisions, the most risky decisions, and focus there. And I think that's a very, very important thing about governance. Two, which is what I would strongly agree, is the traffic light example, that once we set up the traffic lights and we know how they work, doesn't mean that we don't actually have to go back and monitor how they work. Do they work? Make sure that the traffic lights between the different intersections work together so the traffic goes faster and more smooth. So I believe the two elements are important. One is that we actually differentiate the governance based on the risk factors and the likelihood of the bad decisions happening. Two is we have to ensure the daily monitoring. And three, and especially within the finance, the banking industry, so you have the intersection of AI between the technology part, the business part, and compliance part. And those intersections between those blocks is where it's crucial for the executive management to be engaged. So you can't leave AI to IT department, which I love the idea that actually it's a lot of it is generated there, a lot of it understood there, but you can't leave it there. It has to be core part of your culture and has to be overseen by the management daily. Yeah.
What if tomorrow, if we keep governance aside, let's assume hypothetically, and if the POC goes wrong, or the POC goes south, who takes the responsibility then?
No, so I think the right analogy here, right, just to kind of extend what Ashok also kind of called out, is if we are looking at this as a car, governance is not the brakes. Governance is your steering. And when implemented correctly, this is essentially what's helping you keep on track. So all your ethical conundrums that you are trying to solve, all your guardrails that you ideally want to set up, are you looking at setting those up as a bolt-on, saying, you know what, I have the reins, I'm assuming it's going to go here? Or are you setting up in a manner where it is learning, where you know that if you turn the steering left, your car will turn left? I think it kind of comes down to that.
So I did achieve my goal with this question. I divided the panel. I made you fight a little bit, so good for that. See, the point I feel is I'm on both sides actually. You do have to build the platform out first. You have to, at a company wide or at an organization wide, understand what your first principles are, where humans absolutely must be involved in the decision making, so the human in the loop. And then you give the reins to everybody to drive the car they want, so long as they don't cross the line in between, right? So that's basically it. I'm going to move on to the next question, which is the platform question. From use cases to AI as an operating layer. Now, this is this is something which is very core to my heart. First time when somebody is building something, most enterprises, not Target, of course, Nat, you've given us a very good idea how you went about it. But other than Target, most people, when they're doing it, you're starting with some experiments on some open source tools. You're like, chalega, it'll work. And then that blasts. And then you say, okay, I'm going to go take something which is ready-made. I'm going to build something here and there. Eventually, you come to that fabric. And who knows the fabric better than Ashok sir, because you literally call it the fabric. So this is the fabric on which the verticals will exist, the thousands of workflows will exist. You'll give people the governance to go do whatever they want to do, as well as the code orchestrations, the hyperscalers, everything is on that fabric, right? So how do you move from those initial experiments, which by the way should never stop, to the platform thinking?
So I think it's a very, very important question, right? And what we have seen, both the good side and the bad side, right? Sometimes we have seen enterprises, they lose their way, just death by POC, right? Continuously keep trying, that doesn't help. See, the context of doing a POC or a proof of technology versus scaling it is very different. The challenges are very different. The thinking is very different. So nowadays, we are telling our clients that don't go in the POC path. I think the thinking has to be different from the very beginning, right? It's proven that AI can make a huge difference. So I think, as some of my colleagues said, first go with the enterprise AI platform, right? Think about it. Think about the fabric, right? Think about your enterprise priorities, right? Where you want to keep your innovation, right? Where you want to keep your data, right? The models are perishable. We believe the enterprise data is very unique to enterprise, and that is very important. You should not let it go. But models will come and go, right? Today there is Llama 3.1, Llama 3.2. Tomorrow the Gemini is now better. Yesterday GPT was better. So it will keep evolving, right? You can pick and choose your model. You can build your own models also. But where you keep your data is very important, and how you define your AI strategy is very important, right? And to come to a platform thinking, I think it is very important to understand your organization goal, and to achieve that organizational goal, what kind of enterprise AI platform you are building. And then you set that up, and then you bring all the use cases. You onboard all the use cases to the platform, right? And I will take one example to make the point. For one of the large, wealth management client, they are the top 2 world leaders in the wealth management space. They have around 18,000 wealth managers. And we build a AI platform for them, and we build some agents which can help the wealth manager to go and talk to the high net worth individual and come up with a customized wealth plan, right? The way we went through it is not to do a small POC and prove it. POC is a small RAG-based use case, right? Anybody will know that it can be done. But when you scale it, the challenges are very different, right? Suddenly the wealth managers feel insecure, right? If AI can suggest everything, what will I do? So you need to bring them on board. You need to tell them that, you can, in fact, their asset under management went up for each of, on an average for the wealth manager, it went up by 18%, right? So you can handle more customers. You can handle a bigger portfolio, right? By using these agents. Those kind of things, I think we need to think through. How can we handle that data privacy? How can we handle some of the risks that we spoke about on compliance, on governance, on PII data? Those kind of things you can do at a platform level. At a POC stage, those things cannot be handled, right? So I think that's where it is very, very important to jump into it and go with the approach that I want to do it across my enterprise. I will go for it. POC, I mean, you can do a POC here and there. You will be successful in the POC, but that doesn't mean you can scale it.
Yeah. If I may add to what Ashok just said, see, the concept of platformization predates AI. I mean, it is a surprise to many of you here, but AI, before AI things existed, right? So including platformization. So we have grounded our thinking in a set of grounding principles. So whenever we look at platformization, the goal is to democratize usage and democratize the building of capabilities. But at the same time, we want to centralize all our strategic concerns. And that's how we have gone about it, right? So cost is an important concern. Governance is a very important concern. Interoperability, models come and go. There are specific models that we might need to do for specific tasks. Architectural interoperability. These were some grounding principles with which we went about building. One disagreement with Ashok is that we believe in doing a lot of POCs, right? Unlike what Ashok is suggesting. Retail is a very agile business, and we are at the edge of innovation. Retail is at the edge of innovation as compared to life sciences or banking.
For a second, sorry. The reason I'm doing this is, I think both of you are on the same page. Just to point this out. He's not saying no experience. He's saying platform and then experiment on the platform. I think you're saying the same.
Exactly. So the number of POCs we run, the better chance we have of building sustained, durable capabilities, right? At the same time, we should not be afraid to kill POCs when they don't prove their value. So that's the approach we have taken. Start with a platform, democratize the technology, and then run as many experiments as you can.
Just to add, in fact, the platform helps in doing some of the POCs, right?
Exactly.
Because you have all the components, you have the underlying agents, the underlying
The power
tools,
of compounding
skills,
comes
everything
in.
is there, right? So if you want to try, for example, if since we're talking about retail, for another client, we created a set of agents, where you can, it will recommend you a personalized, kind of what suit I should come if this is the event, or if I'm going for a kind of beach festival, then what kind of dress code I should go with, right? It will recommend you. So those kind of things, you have to do certain POC, but underlying, all the apparels, underlying all the tools, what goes with what, those agents are already available. So in fact, your experimentation, I will not call it POC, it is experimentation, right? It helps in experimentation, right? A POC is more of people are in the fence, right? They have not decided whether to go for it or not. That doesn't help, right?
Sir, if I may. No, I 100% agree. And I think that's what I meant, that both of you are saying the same thing, that you need to run hundreds of experiments in parallel to see what will work and give the teams that wings to do that. Okay, so guys, time's up. First of all, thank you to this. Oh, you have something to add. Please, go ahead, Prashant. Sorry, okay. So I'm going to call this entire panel to an end, but with one quick story, right? And thank you, everybody. The story goes back to 2003. There was a world then before AI. And Professor Bagchi, he came in from Sugata Mitra. He came in from Norwest University, and he went to a slum in Calcutta. And he dug a hole in the wall, put a computer in, sealed it in a way that you couldn't take the computer out. And he left it there and went away. The computer had an internet connection. 6 months later, he came back. And the children in that slum who had never been to a school had learned how to use that computer by themselves. He went away again and came back again after 6 months. These children had figured out how to use the internet, connect with children in a classroom in China. Didn't speak the same language, but were teaching each other. I think we are entering into a world of unknown possibilities. Second order, third order impact that we've not seen so far, because we were limiting ourselves through gentrification, through factorization. I think that's going away. With AI, it empowers every individual sitting in this room to go and do what you really can achieve. And I think long ago, that hole-in-the-wall experiment proved that the human potential is infinite. It's maybe time that we embrace in the right way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Check. So please join us for the group picture. Do we have any questions from the audience?
We've already stood up.
Thank you so much for sharing such thoughtful perspectives.
I think he has a question.
Okay.
Had was, yeah. So one question I had was, if someone in the very initial stages of, let's say, a startup, or who's wanting to build a company from scratch, should they look at buying hardware for running, let's say, models locally, or making their own models? Should they look at buying hardware for that specific stuff as an investment in the early stages, or should they move away from that?
Yeah, I'll take that. I run multiple startups. No, I mean, your laptop has a GPU. Do you need anything else? No, you don't. Build it on the cloud, run it on your local, prove that there's value in it, get some customers, let the customers pay for the infrastructure. No, why are you paying for it?
Do it in India, because I've traveled to different places, and I always see that grass is always greener on the other side, and people in India, a lot of complaints, so lots of bureaucracy, paperwork, government doesn't do its job. But let me tell you, if you compare the amount of paperwork and bureaucracy that you have to go in Europe, Canada, or United States to build AI or blockchain business, like India is like a walk in a park. So my wish and hope that actually you build in India.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, speakers.